Hello everybody, my name is Sarah and welcome back to Future Zoologist Academy. Today we'll be exploring an incredible little insect who you might picture fluttering and flying around wildflowers, but this animal doesn't always look like that. Today we're learning all about butterflies. Let's get into it. Butterflies are a superfamily of insects with about 20,000 different species, and they're very closely related to moths, so they have many traits in common with them. Butterflies are found on every single continent except for Antarctica, and they're found in a wide variety of habitats, from grasslands and savannas to deserts and cold boreal forests, but they are most common in tropical environments, like in warm mountain forests. Some butterflies even migrate, meaning they travel from one place to another place, usually based on the season. And during these migrations, butterflies can cross entire continents and many different types of habitats. As adults, most butterflies have large, colorful wings, but they don't always look like this. Like most insects, butterflies go through metamorphosis. And metamorphosis is a series of distinct phases where the animal looks and acts differently in each phase. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at butterfly metamorphosis. Most butterflies lay eggs on the underside of a leaf or a stem, but not the leaf and stem of just any plant. Butterflies have a very particular plant or a group of plants where they lay their eggs, and we call these specific plants host plants. To make sure that they're laying their eggs on the correct host plant, butterflies taste the leaves using their feet, yes, their feet, and also their antennae. Picking the correct host plant is very important for butterflies because their offspring are going to eat the leaves and stems of those plants when they hatch. Some butterflies lay just single eggs at a time, just one, whereas others can lay more than 100 at a time, all clumped together. And typically eggs hatch over the next couple weeks into the next phase of a butterfly's metamorphosis. The next phase of a butterfly's metamorphosis is called the larval phase. Think about larvae being like the baby version of animals who go through metamorphosis. For example, frogs also go through metamorphosis, and we call a larval frog a tadpole. Now, we don't call larval butterflies tadpoles. Instead, we call them caterpillars. Caterpillars eat the leaves and stems of the host plant that their egg was laid on, and they grow very rapidly. Most caterpillars go through 5 or 6 instars, where they shed or molt their hard outer coating of their body as they grow. As they enter their final instar, they start to prepare their bodies for the next phase of their metamorphosis. The third phase of butterfly metamorphosis is called the pupa phase, and this is where the big transformation happens. Caterpillars find a leaf, a stem, a branch somewhere nice and safe, and they attach themselves to the bottom using silk. And they complete their final molt. They shed off one more hard outer coating of their body, and that allows them to form their chrysalis, which is what they transform inside of. This is something that makes butterflies a little different than moths, who form a cocoon. Cocoons are made out of silk. A chrysalis is made out of the hard outer coating of the caterpillar's body. And inside of the chrysalis is where they change. Once the transformation is complete, butterflies emerge from their chrysalis into their fourth and final phase of metamorphosis, the adult butterfly. Once they emerge from their chrysalis, they pump fluid into their wings to help them stretch out and grow big to full size. After those wings dry, which can sometimes take a couple hours, butterflies can set off. They can fly away in search of 2 very important things: food and a mate. Let's talk a little bit more about what adult butterflies like to eat. Most adult butterflies are nectarivores, meaning they feed almost entirely on nectar, which is a sweet, sugary liquid made by flowers. They typically find nectar to feed on by smelling for that sweet air using their antennae, but they also use their big compound eyes to look around for brightly colored flowers. Once they find a flower to feed from, they unroll their long straw-like tongue, which is called a proboscis, and they use their proboscis to slurp up that nectar. One of the great things about metamorphosis is that adult butterflies are not competing with larval butterflies, the caterpillars, for food. They eat different things. Caterpillars are feeding mostly on leaves and stems, and adult butterflies are feeding mostly on nectar. Because of their nectivorous diet, adult butterflies have a very important job in nature. They are pollinators. As butterflies travel from flower to flower drinking nectar, they pick up the little pollen granules and they drop them off as they visit new flowers. And this is really important for plants because this is how most plants reproduce. In other words, it's how plants make seeds. Now, just to be clear, there are some butterflies who do not drink nectar. Some butterflies eat pollen, some of them eat sap from trees or rotten fruit, and some of them just eat dead matter. Now let's circle back to those mates that we started to mention before. As adults, butterflies now have the ability to reproduce. For most animals that go through metamorphosis, they cannot reproduce until they become an adult, which is one of the very important reasons why animals must complete their metamorphosis during their life cycle. Reproducing and having healthy offspring is one of the most important things that any animal can do to ensure the survival of their species. If animals cannot have healthy offspring, at some point, their species will become extinct. To prove how important this is for butterflies and for other animals, there are some butterflies who don't have the ability to eat as an adult, which makes scientists believe that the only job they have as an adult is to find a mate and reproduce. Typically, after butterflies mate, the females lay their eggs under a leaf or a stem and the entire process starts over again. Now, I will say, there is one other very important thing that butterflies must do during their lifetime in order to survive, and that would be to avoid predators. Butterflies have predators both as adults and in their larval form as caterpillars. Predators like birds and frogs, spiders and lizards, and even some small mammals like primates would happily gobble up a butterfly or a caterpillar. But fortunately, both butterflies and caterpillars have some really special adaptations to avoid predators. Let's take a look at some of those. One of the best ways that caterpillars and butterflies avoid predators is relying on camouflage. They have the same colors or patterns as other things in their environment, so they blend in. Lots of caterpillars are green to blend in with green leaves and green stems in their environment, whereas some adult butterflies have the same colors and patterns as tree bark or other leaves in their environment. There are some special species of butterflies that rely on toxins. In other words, they are poisonous. The monarch butterfly feeds on poisonous milkweed when it's a caterpillar, and instead of the caterpillar being harmed, it takes some of those toxins, stores it in its body, and then as an adult, the monarch butterflies continue to have those toxins. Now, wouldn't it be great for poisonous animals to be able to tell predators, hey, you don't want to mess with me, before they end up in the predator's mouth? And fortunately, for many poisonous species, they can do that using warning colors. That's why monarch butterflies have bright orange wings. They don't have very good camouflage, but the bright colors allow them to warn predators, hey, I'm poisonous, you don't want to mess with me. Now again, wouldn't it be nice if you were a butterfly who was not poisonous, but maybe you could trick predators into thinking that you were? There are some butterflies who use mimicry. They look like or act like either other things in their environment or maybe even other species. For example, the viceroy butterfly, which is not poisonous, looks almost identical to the poisonous monarch butterfly. They want to trick predators into thinking that they're poisonous, even when they're not. Now, we did say mimicry doesn't just have to be another species. It can be other things in the environment. My favorite example of caterpillar mimicry are some species whose caterpillars look like bird poop. Not typically something that most other animals are trying to gobble up. Another awesome way that caterpillars and butterflies avoid predators is using eye spots. They have large spots on their back or their side, which can either make predators think, I'm always watching, you can't sneak up on me, or, if the eye spots are quite large, maybe make a predator think that I'm actually bigger than you think I am. Even with all of these amazing survival adaptations, butterflies are still under threat. Their main threat is habitat loss. The habitats that they rely on are being turned into things like cities and farms, making it very hard for butterflies to find host plants or flowers to feed on. But they're also threatened by things like pesticides and climate change. Fortunately, there are lots of things that scientists are doing to help butterflies and things that you can do too. Some of the things that you can do to help butterflies are things like plant native flowers, because that's going to help all of your native butterflies, and plant plants that you know are host plants for the butterflies in your area. For example, if you live by monarch butterflies, plant milkweed, which is their host plant that they can use to lay their eggs on. But my favorite way to get involved in butterfly conservation is to become a citizen scientist. There are amazing apps that you can use to record butterflies that you see in your area, and this will help scientists figure out where do we need to focus our efforts in restoring butterfly habitat. If you would like to learn more about the programs that you can use to help conserve butterfly populations, and if you'd like to learn even more, do quizzes, activities, projects, be sure to click that link below to visit our website. We've got amazing resources on there for you. And that was all we had for you today. If you have any questions, please feel free to send us an email, and we can't wait to see you at our next lesson.